Oh.
Genius billionaire playboy film.
Why so serious?
I wish I knew how to quit you.
You talking to me?
Life was like a box of chocolates.
You can't handle the truth.
I see dead people.
Say hello to my little friend.
Here's Johnny.
You're gonna need a bigger boat. I'll be back.
Mom?
Oh my God.
What is it?
It's a birdcage.
For what?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Picture This Film Reviews, where we are currently reviewing all of the Jurassic Park and Jurassic World movies. We are currently on Jurassic Park 3, so we will be reviewing that today. If you haven't been here before, we're going to go over our names. So I'm Kayla.
I'm Dan, I think.
And I think that makes me Matt.
Okay. Yes, this episode is going to go a little differently than what we normally do. Usually we go over news and stuff like that, but we will go over if anybody has seen anything, or just, how we're doing. So I will start with Matt today. How are you doing, Matt?
I'm doing well on this rainy Saturday here as we record. I haven't watched a lot, but I did finish up that Hulu series Candy with Jessica Biel.
Is that good?
It's good. It might be my favorite Jessica Biel performance.
Wow.
She's charming yet creepy.
Yeah.
And that's what I'll leave it at.
Wasn't she in like some TV show where like she like had like amnesia or something?
Yeah, The Lost or something.
Oh, okay.
And I watched like the first episode of it and I never went back to it. Maybe I will at some point. But.
All right. Well, how are you, Dan?
Doing pretty well. Stuff's still kicking. We're starting to get closer to the summer season, so things are getting busier at work. Really, outside of the Jurassic movies, I don't really think we've watched hardly anything else other than Netflix.
Videos.
Netflix has brought The Circle back for another season. Still into that. So, really, that's about it. How about you?
No, we've just been watching some TikTok videos. I don't know, just laughing at some stuff, between the Jurassic Park, because like Matt said before this, we were like Jurassic Parked out. Like too many dinosaurs, too much going on.
There's no such thing as too many dinosaurs, guys. Don't let her lie to you.
But anyway, that wraps up that little segment. Like I said, we usually do news, but we're going to skip that part today. We are going to head into some stats for the movie, and usually Dan does the stats. So we're going to hand that over to stats.
Alrighty, guys. So we're coming back to Jurassic Park 3. No special titles, no Lost Worlds, no Fallen Kingdoms, no Dominions, nothing like that. So this is based on characters created by, again, Michael Crichton. So huge shout out, sir. Directed by Joe Johnston, written by Peter Buckman, Alexander Payne, and Jim Taylor, starring Sam Neill, who's brought back from the original Jurassic Park, William H. Macy making his first debut along with T. Leone, Alessandro Nivola, Trevor Morgan, Michael Jeter, and some others. As far as this movie goes, the score, this is the first one that was not done by I'm sorry, what was his name?
The composer?
Blanking.
John Williams?
John Williams, sorry. Music was by Don Davis on this one.
Oh, wow.
I'm sorry, guys. I just blanked. Released on July 16, 2001 in the Universal Amphitheater, July 18th in the United States as a whole. This movie has a runtime of 92 minutes. So as far as the movie lengths go, pretty comfortable. You can get through the whole thing. No issues. No having to go to the bathroom. No refills. Matt was happy with this one. The budget, $93 million. Box office brought in 368.8. Not a terrible return, but less than its predecessors overall. It does take place on the island of Isla Sorna, just like The Lost World, a fictional island of cloned dinosaurs located off Central America's Pacific coast. Film involves a divorced couple portrayed by Macy and Leone, who tricked paleontologist Dr. Alan Grant, played by Sam Neill, into helping them find their son, who is missing on the island. Neill and Laura Dern reprised their roles, so Laura Dern was briefly in this from the first film, Jurassic Park 1993, so good to see them back on the screen. And as far as our ratings on this, we are at a 5.9 out of 10 on IMDb, a 48% on Rotten Tomatoes, 3 out of 5 on Common Sense, and 86% of Google users indicated that they like this movie.
Okay, well, that's kind of like a mixed bag there. So it looks like the critics did not really care for this, but the actual people, the regular people, kind of loved it. So I guess we're gonna dive in and see how we feel. So since I'm hosting this episode, that means I go first. So I might be the odd duckling out here, so we shall see. So let's think about this. Number 3. Okay, so if you guys watched the second video, which you will once this is out, I hope, you'll know my thoughts on number 2. Didn't care for number 2 as much, and I've really been thinking about why I didn't care for it, and maybe it came off as too harsh. Is our mic okay on this one? Yeah. Not fuzzy, okay, good. And it might have come off as too harsh. So I kind of want to clarify a little bit before I get into this one. So number 2 was not a terrible movie. For a Jurassic Park film, it was not terrible. There's a lot of high expectations following like a sequel from the first one. I think what made me not like that movie so much was because they changed Ian Malcolm's character so much, and it did that 180, and I just like, it kind of like ruined the movie for me. Okay, so going into this movie, I will say I did like it more than number 2, but not by much. This isn't a terrible movie, but this is not a great movie. And it's not really what you expect, I guess, when you're watching a Jurassic Park film, like expectations that you get from the first 2 movies, because they're on a much broader level, and you're able to acknowledge the amount of time and effort that went into directing, producing, and all that kind of stuff on those 2 films. So this one kind of felt like a little bit of like a mediocre number 1. And I don't feel like I feel like they kind of just like the second one, like it's a lot going in there, but I'm glad that it was an hour and a half, because if it was another half an hour like the other 2 films are, then I would have been like, this movie is freaking terrible. So I feel like putting this movie at an hour and a half was perfect. I will say that the biggest redeeming thing about number 3 is Sam Neill. It was great seeing Sam Neill back on the screen, because his character was so great, but like this is like a pessimistic Sam Neill, so he's like, you dragged me into this, like he's all pissed off, he's got this stuff going on. But it was actually great to see that side of the character, because I really appreciated it, and that's like what carried the movie on for me. I'm trying to think if there's anything. This was the Spinosaurus, right? This was Spinosaurus. I don't know, there's a lot of things that it didn't have like the big, it just didn't feel like as, what's a word that I'm looking for? Like a surprise, or like you weren't like, there was no like, oh my God, I'm lost for words here. Like it didn't have the same effect as when you saw the dinosaurs in the first and second one. And it just felt like kind of cheesy in some parts, especially like the Spinosaurus part. I really did not like that part with the T-Rex. I thought that was really cheesy. One thing that I thought was okay was the pterodactyls. I thought they were pretty creepy. That whole little bird cage scene was probably like the best scene out of the movie, when they're going down the river and all that jazz. So I'm trying to see but this movie, in comparison to like ratings wise, gets the same rating, and I think I rated number 2 at a 6, I want to say. So this is a 6 for me too. It's not great. It doesn't go as far as number 2 did, but just for me, I don't really know if this movie was necessary. It kind of like I say all the time, tampers with how good the first one makes you feel. And usually when they do things like this and they carry on the story more, things kind of get like, you're like, whoa, what the hell are they doing? You're like, but yeah, Sam Neill was the only thing I really liked about this movie. I thought the storyline was okay. I did appreciate what they kind of did with the Raptors a little bit. Raptors are seem like the ongoing character of the dinos. But anyway, yes, 6 out of 10. Yeah. I can't really add much to it because there's only so much you can say. It was an hour and a half, and it's kind of I don't know. It wasn't that spectacular when it comes to when you're thinking of when you're holding Jurassic Park at such a high pedestal. Yeah. So whoever wants to kick it off next. Who wants to go? Oh my gosh, I'm dying to know.
Who wants to go?
Dan's not going to give out. Dan's not. Do you want to go last? Just
want to go last?
I think he wants to go last.
Okay. All right. So, Jurassic Park 3, everybody. This felt like an early 2000s movie for sure. Even the opening titles, when the title came up and said Jurassic Park, and then the 3 hallmark tip, I was like, this is what I'm in for. And I don't mean to crap on every early 2000s movie, but they all have that genuine oh boy type of feeling usually. Maybe it's the Trevor Morgan kid character whose character name I don't remember, but this one definitely felt more geared towards a family and children than the first 2 movies. I felt like the first 2 movies were geared more towards adults, and this is geared more toward a family, you could take a whole family to see, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, as we'll talk about in a later episode. But this, I think, was not done as well. I was in the movie, I was surprised and disappointed, not this time watching, but the first time I ever saw it. I was disappointed to learn that Ellie Sattler and Alan Grant did not end up together. That seemed all but fate. But it was good to see that they remained friends, and Grant was there playing with her kid, and it was cute, and it was just a little oh man, they didn't end up together. That's not his kid, But I mean, true to the character though, he said he didn't like kids, he didn't want to have kids. Granted, I think he came around at the end of the first movie, he liked kids a little better, but so it was still kind of true to character that he wouldn't end up with someone and settle down and have a family. Kayla, you hit the nail on the head perfectly. This movie is cheesy from start to finish. From the opening title to many one-liners to some of the fight and dinosaur fighting scenes to Grant talking to Ellie's bird in the beginning, saying, "Say my name. What's my name? Is it Alan? Say Alan." I was like, oh dear God. It was just, I don't know. Anyway, I'll get to that in a second. The entire opening scene at the dinner table, it wasn't the opening scene, but the entire scene at the dinner table with Sadler and Grant talking felt like just one big conversation for the movie trailer. And if you've ever seen the movie trailer, that's exactly what it was. Yeah, that entire conversation is in the trailer. And I felt like that was the sole purpose for that conversation to take place, because it was they communicate with each other. They're doing things we never thought imaginable. Talking, who talks like that? That's purely for the movie trailer. And again, go watch the movie trailer if you haven't seen it, because it fits right in the movie trailer. It gets you oh, hell yeah. But then you watch the movie and it just doesn't fit. Where The Lost World took out most of the main John Williams music theme, this movie puts it back in full force, sometimes almost too much. But it was nice to hear, but I did feel like it was almost an overkill. You gotta find that medium. And again, we'll talk about someone that did it right in a later episode. This film suffers from what I call the Batman Forever effect. And that is when the second movie was too dark and too scary, and they want to sell toys and things to children and make a profit. So they make the third movie much lighter, much different. You could take your small children to this and have a good time. Even the parts where people were dying were not really that scary or bloody or anything. Which is why I think I remembered liking this, because I went and saw it as I was 13 when this movie came out. So I was young. So when I saw it, it was new. It was awesome. It was, oh, the next Jurassic Park. Now, not so much. I love William H. Macy generally. I love him. His greatest performance ever, no one can tell me different, will be in Shameless. But this is not that. The best part of this movie, aside from the returning Sam Neill, which I agree, he definitely holds this movie together. But my favorite character, I think, surprisingly, because I never used to like this character, but going back now, was Alessandro Navarro playing Billy. I think he was the standout for me here, and I would have liked to seen more of him. The movie was not scary or thrilling at all. First two had moments that were truly terrifying. This did not. It did not feel like the same world that Spielberg had created. It felt like a much different atmosphere. I already talked about the stupid one-liners. I wrote, there's a scene where Sam Neill says, "Oh my God, it's calling for help." And I was like, oh my God, someone call help for me, because this is terrible. The idea of Grant coming back and getting to experience the second island, I thought was cool, but just poorly executed. It was bad writing, bad acting by a lot of the people involved, even people that normally deliver good performances. Like, again, not to steal you, from Caleb, but I did write it here. It's in my notes. This movie should not exist and should have never been made. It felt like a cartoon, like a live action cartoon. The dinosaurs didn't look as real, what does a real dinosaur look like? But I think Spielberg hits it on the mark with Jurassic Park and The Lost World. That's what dinosaurs should look like. These looked cartoonish and colorful, and the T-Rex didn't look the same, and the raptors didn't look the same. It was they had like feathers or something going on, yeah. And it just was weird. The other thing I wrote that I didn't like, and I'm wrapping it up here, the stepfather that died in the parachute. When they found him, he was a full-blown skeleton.
Oh my God, I said the same thing.
And supposedly it had been 8 weeks. 8 weeks, okay? So 2 months. Now, you're telling me that in 2 months, his entire body turned into a full-blown skeleton. No rotting flesh, no bits and pieces, because granted, I guess he was eaten or something. So I know there'd be bone, but that dude was like a plastic skeleton out of Spirit Halloween.
Like still connected all together.
Yeah, in the jumpsuit, yeah.
And it just wasn't believable. The movie was ridiculous and made no sense 98% of the time. I called Jurassic Park magical. I called The Lost World gritty. My word for this film is cheesy. I give it a 5 out of 10.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and jump in then. I don't think I'm going to be as harsh as Matt, but I do want to address a lot of the big things that you hear out of fans of the franchise, why this might not necessarily be their favorite. I think Matt and Caleb both addressed some of the issues. The biggest one for me as a kid was that you watch the T-Rex make such an impact in the first and second movie, and he ultimately gets taken down by the Spinosaurus, which just comes in, snaps his neck, crafts all over the T-Rex, and then it's like, it's over, I'm the new king, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Kind of sucky in that regard, and taking out what I think is honestly one of the most iconic pieces of Jurassic Park and just disrespecting it like that. I agree with Matt and Kayla both that Sam Neill was the most redeeming part of this film. It's unfortunate that I know Matt had said that it fit his character not to end up having kids in the long run, which ultimately you could see how that would undo his relationship with Ellie, who did want to have children. But by the end of Jurassic Park, I thought there was some character development when he had Tim and Lex like leaned up against him on the helicopter flying off, where he started smiling, like giving that little side smile to Ellie, like, okay, I could see why you'd want to have kids. And yeah, how disappointing it is to repeat what Matt has already said, that you have these two characters you think are going to be in a relationship, you return to them, and you know, it's done. She's married somebody else, had kids with somebody else. It's crazy. So they show this scene, Matt brought this up, of him talking to the parrot at Ellie's house. They later bring in what's known as the infamous talking raptor scene when he falls asleep on the airplane and the raptor says his name. That, yeah, terrible moment. Really kind of like, wow, okay, the raptor's going to say my name. Like, why was it needed? Why was it necessary? Jurassic Park was scary enough to try to give it a gimmick, especially something like so cheesy and so quick. What else do we want to get into here? So as far as the Kirbys, again, William H. Macy and Tay Leone. I really didn't like their characters. And I think that their inclusion and how they were introduced into this kind of hurt, again, Alan Grant as a character, because if they had just gone to him and said, look, our son was lost on the island and needs to be saved. Is there any way that you can help us? I feel like his character would have deserved that more than, oh yeah, we're going to trick you to be our tour guide to do a flight over the island, but then we're going to land and then knock you out senselessly on the plane to land you here. Like, it was just unneeded. And a lot of the gore, as opposed to the first few movies, happens like right after they land. Like the military men pretty much, one gets eaten out of the cabin, or no, is left behind. He gets eaten on the tarmac as they're trying to take off. Plane gets hit. The next one gets eaten out of the cabin as the Spinosaurus bites off the front of the plane there, and then the third one dies by a Velociraptor. So then after that, relatively kind of steady. We do have the scenes of the riverboat where the Spinosaurus again makes the appearance. I do agree with Kayla. It was a nice addition to have the pterodactyls in the little cage. That was something that was unexpected. And looking back at this, I guess that was actually a part of the first two books. There wasn't really a story they were going off of for this third movie, and apparently towards the end, production got rushed. You kind of feel that at the end, especially the closing scenes, where you have the guy with the bullhorn that's saying Dr. Alan Grant, and then you have all these military people that are apparently added post filming with CGI and everything, which I'd never noticed before, being added to the beach. Like the whole military came out to get you off an island you weren't supposed to be in or on to begin with. I thought that was like mind blowing. I don't know. I will give it a couple things. I think the pacing was more similar to the first Jurassic Park movie than, let's say, the second one, where it felt like rush. So that I think they did a good job at giving it some kind of a little bit of pause in between the action and the effects. But outside of that, it really didn't bring anything new to the franchise. In fact, I felt like it cheapened it. And I know we weren't supposed to talk about it, but I am going to say this: in Jurassic World, you do start looking back at, or one of the things that they say is, look, we have to bring in a new dinosaur every few months to keep the press interested, to keep the public interested. And I feel like this is what happened with Jurassic Park 3 is they're like, the T-Rex isn't bad enough. The Velociraptor is not bad enough. And in fact, even though the Spinosaurus wasn't listed on the first couple of movies as being a dinosaur in the park, we're going to add that, and then we're going to go back and then say, okay, so, and this is again later after this movie is even created to kind of make some sense of it. It's listed on a website connected to Jurassic World movie that InGen scientists snuck on the island in 1997, created 4 new dinosaurs, including the Spinosaurus that we see in Jurassic World 3. And then they abandoned that again, and that's how we end up with Spinosaurus. And there are 3 other variations. There's also some more information we'll get into when we get to the Jurassic World episode. But I feel like that could have been a key piece that was added to the film that would have made a little bit more sense. But outside of that, I'm probably going to stick in the middle between Kayla and Matt on this. I'm going to go right with a 5.5 as my rating. And again, when I watched this the first time, I don't think I had as much respect for it as I do now. So I probably would have rated it a lot lower. And again, just that initial factor of like, the other piece was raptors were killing machines in the first and second films. And then they get their egg back.
Oh my God.
And then they just kind of retreat back into it. And they're like, oh, we're just going to take our egg. That's all we care about. And then we're gone. That would have never happened in one of the first 2 movies. Like Billy would have had his guts ripped out from him.
No. In the second film, you have a scene where Jeff Goldblum, blah, 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 Julianne Moore, they're all there, right? But Jeff Goldblum ran around, it looks like almost like an old gas tank or something, like literally is playing like hide and seek with this raptor. That's not really believable either, because like, you're like, dude, they're attacking everyone else and they're just literally going to play peekaboo.
Well,
like that's what it seemed like. I was like, they would never do that. He would eat him.
I would say that the second movie tried to draw on some information from the first movie more so than the third, but I do think the third movie tried to borrow the fact that Billy had a lucky backpack from the second movie. I thought that was kind of interesting. Just another gripe I know, because I was reading before this.
So Julianne Moore's character's backpack
was lucky. No, it wasn't the same backpack, but he claimed it was his lucky backpack.
That's what she had a lucky backpack. I caught that too. I thought that's weird that they did that in 2 movies.
Yeah, I think it was just to try to be like a little throwback to this. Like, okay, whatever. But dang, now I've lost my train of thought.
I'm sorry.
But as far as the Billy, I feel like his character should have died. I know you said that he was a good addition to it. They tried to make it seem like he knew Mr. Kirby in the beginning. Like maybe they had a discussion before they went to talk to Grant, because he goes into the tent. It's like, hey, Billy, how are you doing? And they start getting into all that. Like they know each other. I don't know if you guys caught that.
Yeah, now that you say it.
But yeah, I feel like, in the end, he's just randomly already in the helicopter when they get there. Like, man, how'd they do that from the beach? They picked him up somehow from
they
towards
just
the center
like
of the
magically
island.
saw him through the waterfall thing or
Yeah,
something.
just crazy. But outside of that, a couple interesting facts. I don't have very many to go into this, but I feel like it's worth speaking about. We talked about the animatronics and the big animatronic in the first ones for the T-Rex. Apparently for this movie, up to the time they made the Spinosaurus was also an animatronic that operated on hydraulics, that was fully functional underwater and was the largest animatronic ever made at the time for movies. Just kind of an interesting fact, that they're still using, instead of CGI, some of the actual puppets and building that. And to your point, Matt, I know you said that the raptors look different. Apparently, Michael Crichton, when he wrote his stories, Jurassic Park, when he envisioned Alan Grant, he envisioned an actual paleontologist who also was used to give some information on all 3 movies. So at that time period, they were still talking about how the dinosaurs evolved into birds and how they were covered in feathers. So it was a creative decision to start adding feathers to the raptors, which you're 100% correct, look different than the first and second movies. But at that time, they were thinking they were fully covered except for their snouts, but they didn't want to go all that way because it would be too different from the original films. So we're just going to stick some on them in random places, make it more colorful, whatever. But yeah, that's where I am. And that's where I am with Jurassic Park 3.
Okay, so we have a 5 from Matt, a 5.5 from Dan, and a 6 from me. I do want to add something else real quick, now that we've all talked. Yeah, I think putting Laura Dern in this there was no point to this. And I feel like they only did it for the nostalgia fact. And if the trailer itself was that they're all sitting around the table and they're talking about it, I feel like that's like kind of misleading, and that probably was done on purpose to be like, hey, Laura Dern and Sam Neill, you might see them like, oh my God, they're sitting at a table, they're a family. So I feel like maybe that was like super misleading. I just don't feel like her character was not necessary in this at all. You didn't even have to know that she had a kid with someone else.
To your point too, like they were trying to make it a lot lighter. And then also with the one scene where he's on the boat, or Grant's on the boat, and he's got the satellite phone, he's making the call to Ellie, they're sinking on the boat. The little boy picks it up, and he's watching what on the
Barney,
freaking TV? Barney. So he's talking to the dinosaur man. He's looking at the purple dinosaur, whatever, getting distracted. I don't know, just stuff like that. Just probably.
Yeah, it just like there was no point. I feel like they only did it to bring in, get the audience interested in it, that there might be some kind of like, I don't know, just to fulfill certain people's ideas and theories and all this kind of thing. I feel like that cheapens it a little bit, because like, I don't know, there was no purpose of her being in there. There just wasn't.
Cool. All right, host.
Yeah. Okay, so does anybody else want to throw anything else in there about Jurassic Park 3?
I've got nothing.
Like the claws. Okay, so yeah, that wraps that up. So I feel like we kind of fall in line a little bit more closer to the critics of this movie. It was not a great, what is this called, end of a trilogy. And it kind of like left on a sour note. It really was not bad. It was not good, and it's a shame too when you have the first film being so good, and then just like, for me, it just slowly declines. But anyway, so we want to thank everybody who is watching, especially on YouTube. Oh my gosh, you guys, that is wonderful. Seems like some of these videos just skyrocket, and it's fantastic to see that. But on Instagram too, thank you for following us. We're on Facebook as well, both Instagram and Facebook at Picture This Film Reviews. We are also on YouTube, which we will hand this over to Matt to say our YouTube page.
It is youtube.com/Studio29Films.
Yes, and you can find all of our other reviews on there as well if you're interested in seeing this one, and then you just get to see our lovely faces even more and more.
And potentially see our little fur ball too.
Yes,
Who's
like trying to eat everything.
That's a dinosaur.
Dinosaur. Indiana Bones right here. So yeah, we want to thank everybody. Please check us out on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. And usually this is the part where we throw it back to Matt and we have him close out the end of the video. So Matt, if you would take us away, please.
Everybody have a great week. Tune in next week as we discuss Jurassic World.
Oh my God.
And of course, love one another.
See you guys.